Hey folks, I'm Gene Del Sala with Audioholics, and today we are doing an unveiling surprise video for you guys of the new RBH impression line. We're with Daren Egan, the Marketing Director of RBH Sound. Daren, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Gene, thanks. Thanks for having me on there today.
It's always a pleasure to have you guys come back. So let me ask you this, Daren. You guys have had the impression series of speakers under the EMP name prior, maybe about 8 years ago it's been.
It's been almost 10, yeah.
10 years ago. Wow, time flies. So people were wondering what happened to EMP, why is it now RBH, and why did you come out with this new series?
Okay. Well, EMP was started back in a time when, with our dealerships, we did not want to upset the flow of what they were doing. Back then, online sales were a questionable tactic used by speaker companies. And what we have found over the years is that we were selling the impression series under the EMP moniker, with the full production taking place at RBH Sound with the same RBH Sound staff and everything else. And the whole intention of it was to be able to sell directly to the public. Roger Hassing, the owner of the company, said, I want to be able to sell electronically marketed products, or basically, essentially the name EMP Tech had a couple of different changes before it was Engineered Music Products. And so you can kind of see the correlation there between the naming. Ultimately, what we decided to do was to sell all of the other products that were either secondhand products that RBH manufactures, or other products that we were needing to get rid of on a direct-to-consumer basis. We were testing the waters, so to speak, and learning how to sell online. And what we found is when we introduced the impression series, there was a new excitement out there in the marketplace. We were having so much success because people would go to our dealers, and our dealers would not have the product in stock, or whatever the case may be. And it was the beginning of what we now see as the retail era, which people are not necessarily buying speakers from showrooms. They're buying it online. Amazon's playing a big part in helping to remove the direct listening experiences that you used to have at the mom and pop shops around the neighborhood. And Roger could foresee this back in 2008, and he knew that that's where we needed to go, which was great. And so the challenge for RBH is that we were selling the impression under the RBH brand internationally. So the same R5BI that was being sold in Canada, for example, was known as the E5BI in the United States, because we didn't want to conflict with our dealers. The dealers had access to the product. The dealers could sell the EMP product. We didn't hide anything from the dealers at all. We just wanted to make it much easier for the average consumer to go online and buy a product and get it into their home. And so what ended up happening is we'd establish a new product, and then we'd have to introduce it under two brand names. We'd have EMP as one and RBH as another, and it got confusing to the point where, did we introduce it as this model or that model? So the bottom line, to make a very long story very short, was to consolidate the brands to make things much easier, so that folks would be able to remember one model number instead of two, and to be able to associate that branding with RBH Sound, which is the better of the two brands.
Right.
As we've basically shuttered EMP Tech. All of the technology that was developed under EMP Tech was built by Shane Rich, our technical engineer, and his crew. And so, yeah, it's basically come under all one house now.
Yeah, and that's great. And back almost 10 years ago when we reviewed the original impression line, we found it to be a very high value speaker for its price, not only from a performance but from aesthetics. And the fact that you get a full range tower like this with dual mid ranges, and it's very rare to find speakers, especially budget speakers, that dedicate so much surface area to the mid range. And that's such a critical range that people forget about. You know, a baritone in a 200-300 hertz frequency range is still about a 3-foot wavelength. And if you only have a little 5 1/4 inch mid range trying to handle all of that energy, you just don't get all the dynamics of it. And I really am partial to an MTM, where you have the mid-range, tweeter, mid-range, and then these are obviously the bass drivers. And we just listened to these speakers, and let me tell you something, in this 6,000 cubic foot room, we cranked them. And I had a 200 watt per channel Marantz PM11 S4 integrated amp powering them, the Oppo UDP 205 Blu-ray player, which we will miss Oppo. We love them. I'm still going to use their player even though they're going away. Yes, and the speakers were connected with Kimber 8PR or 8TC, I'm sorry, cables. So we had a very nice setup here. Everything was optimally positioned, and I put on various music, whether it was jazz, Diana Reeves, for example, very vocal kind of instrumental music, very bass intense music. And part of the criticism I had with the original impression line was they really didn't do anything below 50 hertz. You really need to have a subwoofer if you wanted to have full range sound with those. I kept whining and complaining to Shane. I said, Shane, you need to put more motor force in those woofers. And sure enough, he listened. It took 8 years, and we're here today. And this is a significant step up in performance over the original impression line, hence why the price increase, because you're dealing with substantial upgrades. And it's not just aesthetics, it's not just the aluminum cone that looks great and this nano silk you're saying?
It is, yeah.
But these drivers have a much bigger magnet structure in them. I believe, if I'm correct, these are from the MC line of RBH products, these 6.5 inch drivers, right?
Yep, all the technology's built into the whole thing.
So you've got a speaker now that's capable of playing down lower, I would say usable bass down to the 30 hertz range. Much more output SPL, much less compression. The tweeter itself is a huge upgrade, in my opinion. It's a much more open sounding, much more airy sounding tweeter, much more detailed oriented tweeter. I would imagine part of that has to do with increased power handling, lower resonant frequency, so it plays down lower to blend better with the mids. And I just have to tell you guys, it's an impressive speaker, both aesthetically and performance wise. And for $2,000 a pair, it looks like it's a good deal. And we're going to actually do a formal review. I'll do some measurements on it, so you could probably in a month or so you can go on Audioholics and you can see more detailed reporting on our listening tests as well as measurements. But what I'd like to go over with you, Daren, is the different ranges of this product, different finish options, different driver upgrades, because there's really 4 ways you could order this product.
There are.
You could order it with 2 different finish grades and 2 different performance grades.
That's correct.
So why don't I let you talk about that, because you remember it better than I do.
No, it's great. That's a great way to go. The first generation impression series had a beautiful finish on it. It was, by every sense of the word, a good first impression. A lot of people wrote in that their wives really liked the high gloss finish, that was one of the big things that they went to or went towards, rather than just a traditional basic looking speaker, was the glossy finish that we had on that. That particular cabinet provided some challenges for us, and so we have restructured our cabinet design and manufacturing process to more mimic the more popular MC series, which has never actually been able to be purchased directly online before, where this will be. And so the MC series, in the good, better, best scenario for RBH Sound, was in the better range. It was a step under our signature series, and so by offering it in 2 levels, as you just mentioned, we're offering it not only in the entry level that the impression series used to represent, but also a step up level of performance. Just like our signature has its regular and then it has its reference level, the impression series has its standard and then it has its elite version. And so, yeah, the finish and the performance level of this particular tower speaker, or this pair that we've got here today, this is the elite with the gloss black finish. And so this is the flagship of the impression series lineup. And so as a flagship, it stands about $2,000. But you can drop $1,000 in price, and basically, well, $900 in price, it's $1,099 for this exact same tower, but with the standard drivers, which is a polygraphite mica cone, and then the traditional standard soft dome tweeter that we had in the impression series. Actually, this isn't the same tweeter. This is an upgraded tweeter over the tweeter that we used to have in the standard impression series.
Yeah, all your drivers are upgraded from the
They're
original.
all upgraded, yeah. Right. It's not... We didn't just want to put another fancy paint job on something that was already really good. That wasn't the goal. The goal was to give you more of a full frequency response. It was better. It was designed to provide better mid-range, more predictable higher frequencies. Mm-hmm. Everything across the board was in question and capable of being upgraded. That's the trouble with Shane, is he's always upgrading stuff, and then he comes to me and says, okay, we're going to make this change. You got to change all your brochures, everything, your website, because I just found this new tweeter that I really like. So that's my biggest challenge is as a marketing director is trying to keep up with him. He's always trying to upgrade. He wants to provide you, the listener, with much better sound, and I can't fault him for that. So it's just a challenge for us to keep up.
It's a good moving target to always want to improve a product and
It is.
try to scale it back once
Yeah.
it has a good reputation. And that's one thing I've always liked about RBH Sound products is they're not a huge mass marketed brand. Okay, they're not going to be at the local Best Buy, for example, but they're more of a, I hate to say mom and pop because you guys have been around for over 30 years, but they really are more of a custom audio, I would say, kind of brand. They do a lot of integrated audio, you know, in-wall products is their bread and butter. But at the heart of the company, with Shane leading the engineering end of it, is really audiophile, I think. I mean, you guys are always working on these $50,000 speakers, for example, as their statement piece. And you try to trickle down as much as that sonic signature down to a product that's more affordable and attainable, both aesthetic, real world fitting it in the room and also being able to afford it.
Yeah. The manufacturer or business to customer level today is much more competitive than it used to be. You've got a lot of companies out there that are offering some fantastic products at some great prices, and we as a manufacturer have to compete with that and make you, the customer, happy with what you're hearing.
Right.
And so, yeah, even the most basic of the models that we are introducing as the second generation would be the R5. That is a significant advantage and increase in performance and quality over the R5BI, which was the first generation. And even at the most basic level, which is still $300 a pair, you're going to get much better frequency response, much better detail, much higher detail and quality in the overall presentation. And then to take that speaker now and offer it in a gloss finish or a standard finish gives you up to, like you said, 4 options. You know,
Right.
You've got the ability to put 2 different finishes on the basic and then 2 different finishes on the elite. So yeah, it really does give you some options out there to really tailor it to what you're looking for in terms of budget, and if you're using it in a home theater and you want to avoid the reflections, you know, this is exactly what that finish is designed for. Unless you want to show it off to your neighbors, and then that's when you bring out the high-end Mercedes finish, if you will, and that's where we're at. So,
well, the other thing I wanted to show you guys, 2 things actually: the Outriggers, which adds stability to the speaker and it plants the speaker on the ground, because a large tower, a skinny tower like this, is very easy to tip over. So their Outrigger system helps stabilize that. But then the grill cover, it's not magnetic, which is, you know, I do like the magnetic grill covers, but that does add cost. But I do like the fact that this isn't a cheap, flimsy plastic grill.
Yeah.
A lot of companies, you'll see, even in this price class, they give you very cheap plastic and it's very bendable. This is a very rigid grill. The grill cloth itself is very tightly wound on it. The posts are metal. They're not the cheap plastic ones that tend to break off. And there's a lot of bracing on it as well.
yeah.
So if you are going to listen with grills, these are really good grills. I think they look great too when they're on. We'll stick them on here.
You know, I just was going to mention, Gene, you mentioned about the Outriggers too. Even those have been upgraded over the originals that we had before. The casting is much more precise. The machining is much more precise as well.
Right.
And it has a nicer, more consistent finish on it.
One thing I wanted to ask you, if you don't mind turning the speaker around, I wanted to show
Sure.
you guys how it's rear ported.
We unplugged.
So these are a ported design. He's got 2 ports on the back of this. And you can see they're pretty substantial ports. What are these, about 2 inches of diameter?
That's actually a 3-inch.
Oh, 3-inch,
Yeah.
okay.
And we've used a really high quality 5-way binding post. So yeah.
So now, do you offer tuning? Do you offer ability to tune this by stuffing the ports? Do you give the port plugs with it, or?
Not these. I don't believe that we're going to be doing that with the towers. Yeah. The ports are designed in such a way to give you such a deeper extension than what the R55 Ti had.
Right.
That was one of the biggest challenges with the tower, is that everybody would buy the tower and they'd say, well, I really want to be able to listen to 2-channel music and have it extend down into the 30s. and they just weren't getting that with the first generation. So that was one of our primary opportunities to improve there, and Shane did a great job. These have got a ton of bass all the way down to the 30s.
They really do. I was pretty taken back, especially I didn't have them all the way in the back wall. I had them more towards about 5 feet off the front wall, and I was getting really good bass coupling at my listening area, and I wasn't able to bottom them out. They didn't pop. They didn't make any mechanical noises. So he did his homework on the driver design.
It got pretty loud in here.
It got loud. So guys, what I'm doing is we're actually going to have someone else review the towers, but I'm going to basically take a closer look at this speaker, because I do believe a lot of your customers are going to be doing matching LCRs. You know, for those that have, 4 subwoofers in their room and they don't need the bass extension of the tower, you could literally set 3 of these up, preferably vertically. But if you can't do vertical, then you turn this one horizontal, and the tweeter's up a little bit higher for a little bit better performance, off-axis performance. And you've got these little rubber feet, so you can angle the speaker up, or if it's above the screen, you can angle it down. If it's on a shelf. So I'm going to take a look at using an MTM in a 2-channel environment with a subwoofer, or even without the sub. I'm going to try it without the subwoofer first, just because I really think when you're doing a lot of jazz music, or just music that has brass instruments in it, it makes a huge difference when you have more surface area for the mids.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people miss that. So what was the price on these again, in a standard driver and the upgraded driver?
I want to say off the top of my head, I don't remember all the prices, because there's, again, 4 different prices.
We'll put a table up on the video.
We'll do that. But I believe that on the low end it's about $300, and on the high end,
each.
That's each. And then on the top end it's around $450.
Okay.
Yeah.
So guys, around,
again, this off the top of my head though.
So for around $1,000 a pair, you could get, you could get a pair of these speakers if you already have subs. If you don't have subs and you're doing 2-channel listening, then the tower is the way to go, because it doesn't take up a whole lot more floor space, because if you put these on stands, the footprint's pretty similar. So it really depends on your application. So we're going to be taking a look at that.
I was just going to say, Gene, while you've got that in your hand, this is very similar to our SV661 in our Signature series, which is the most popular speaker in that whole lineup.
Right.
And it's a very close facsimile, if we want to use that word, or if I want to use that word to describe exactly what's trying to happen, or what we're trying to accomplish with this. The reason why that speaker is so popular is the power handling, the resolution, the dynamics, everything about that speaker is just a winning combination. So we kind of took a footprint of that and said, okay, what can we do in the Impression series to get us to the 10-yard line, or get us to the 5-yard line, almost to the exact same speaker, but do it at a cost that is significantly less expensive for people who are looking to break into the RBH brand name and get a better sense for what we're all about.
Well, that's interesting too, because this is the first time you've had a 5-inch or a 5¼ inch aluminum cone driver in a box product.
In a freestanding speaker.
A freestanding speaker. So yeah, the Signature one you were talking about had a 6½, so it's a little bit bigger.
It does, yeah, and that's a Signature grade level cone. It's a little different design from this, but all of that technology that Gene's talking about, from the Status Acoustics product to the Signature and even to the Impression series, it's all trickle-down technology. You're getting that same engineering behind that in a way that we're trying to make the value that is RBH sound even stronger than what it's been in the past.
So I guess people are going to wonder, now that you have your surround speaker, you could use that as your surround, you could use this as a center, that is the mains. What subwoofers do you recommend that complement the series in the category of product that you're selling?
So currently we have the S8, the S10, and the S12, and it's an 8-inch, 10-inch, and a 12-inch model right now. It's available on our website. But we have some fun things in store down the road. Shane and his crew, we were talking to him as a sales and marketing team. We said, look, we want to bring a heavyweight to a heavyweight championship. We don't want to bring a lightweight to a heavyweight championship. So they've got their work cut out for them, but we've been promised that that's something that's in the works, and that we'll be pretty proud of. In the first generation Impression series, we had the I-12E and the I-12, and that was the first kind of foray into the elite and the standard versions of those, and we sold more standards of those than elites, because the word got out that it was just awesome as it was, and they didn't need to spend the extra money on the elite. But when you spent the extra money on the Elite, you ended up shaking things apart like your foundation and stuff. So anyway, not seriously, but in all fairness, the new subwoofers that are coming, we know what kind of competition we've got out there. We know what kind of pricing that you guys are going to like and be happy with, and we know that you're looking for those specifications that, as speaker manufacturers, they're tough, but that's our challenge for you guys that you've given us. Is we've got a lot cut out for us, and we're looking forward to being able to deliver that.
Well, the other thing too is when we did the live video prior, Shane Rich was on that video saying that he's going to come out with a subwoofer that's going to bust our extreme bassaholic rating for under $1,000. So we're going to hold him to that, and we're going to be testing that. And if he doesn't do it, he's going to have to go back to the drawing board.
That's true. That's true. He's got a big shoe to fill there.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think that's about it. If you like this video, thumb it up. I know people are asking if they can listen to the speaker, so stay tuned for our listening test. I guess we're going to close mic the speaker so you guys can listen. But please share this video, ask us any questions you like, and take a look at our editorial coverage to come. And until next time, keep listening.